Welcome to the Author Corner, our chance to meet the authors you'll want to read. I'm Stephanie, and I'm so excited today to be joined by a very special pair of co-authors, Maureen McNeil and Mercedes Cabbagestalk. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for inviting us.
Oh, thrilled to have you. Maureen, I know you've written so much, and this is a very, very special and different kind of book. But before we even get to Mercy, the book that you did with Mercedes, tell me a little bit about your writing in general and how you got started.
Well, my family really always loved storytelling. They loved artists. My parents, they loved adventures, free thinkers. And so when I guess there's lots of little steps, but I'll start in middle school with the Mean Girl cliques. I started journaling, and it really helped me. I was very shy, and it helped me know what I thought, to write my thoughts down. And writing made it easier to speak out and stand up for myself and not be a follower, but be a leader. And, you know, at one point I just said to my mother a couple years later, I'm going to be a writer. And she said, oh, I'll find you a mentor. I have a friend who has a PhD in English literature. She was a college friend, and she owes me because I paid her mortgage when she was getting divorced, and she can pay me back by helping you.
Love that.
So anyway, it was a long-term relationship.
Wow.
We met. She would always bring me a sandwich. We'd walk around Green Lake in Seattle, and she would read my poetry, and she'd say, I know you don't know what you're doing, but I have to tell you this beautiful thing you did. And she had me reading, you know, the great poets, and she would, her husband was a Sherwood Anderson scholar, so she would invite me home to hear his lectures over dinner. We got to audit a class at University of Washington on William Blake.
Wow.
With this wonderful scholar, Hazard Adams. And she helped me publish my first poem and my first reading, which was at University of Washington.
That's fantastic. You know, you said so much that I love. I love that because your parents were artistically minded and open-minded and sharing literature, that shaped you. And that says so much about parents and the home influence, which we're going to even talk about more with Mercedes.
Yeah.
And I love that your mom found you a mentor, that she heard that you wanted to be a writer, and her first reaction wasn't, well, that's not going to pay the bills. Her first reaction was, I know someone, and got you a mentor. And I think that that's just such a lesson for all of us parents out here to be doing that. I know some of your novels. Tinker Street and Anna Magdalena are fabulous novels that you've written. I know you've also done, you know, more in the biographical, The Lost Diary of Marilyn Monroe and such. But this book, Mercy, is a totally different animal than all of these. It's not a biography of some famous person. It's not a novel. What is it? Tell me a little bit, and then we're going to talk to Mercedes.
Okay, so, you know, Mercy's nonfiction.
Yes.
And it's my first nonfiction published work. I did write a story that won second place a few years ago. That was my brother and I sharing journals entries as we both left home. He was an adventurer setting out to sail around the world in a boat he had renovated, and I was right out. He taught me to be a rebel, and I was graduating from high school early and setting off for 7 months alone in Europe and North Africa. And so we sent each other our journals, and so I just wrote a short story about it. I mean, it was nonfiction.
Right. But I love that.
Rachel Kushner, one of my writers that I really like, said that, and I agree with her, that writing nonfiction takes a lot of willpower. But you know you're going to do it. You know you can do it because you have experienced it. But writing fiction, you really have to feel your way. You have to create the characters. You have to, find the right setting and get the emotions and the imagination, and you have to make it real. So they're two different kinds of writing.
Yeah, very different. And you've now been on both sides of that coin.
Yeah.
Which is just amazing. And I'm sure a very different experience as a writer. Mm-hmm. So would you introduce us to Mercedes and tell us about your history together? I love that.
Well, I met Mercedes as an 8-year-old. She was so charming. She was jumping rope in front of my house in Red Hook, Brooklyn. And I had 2 little boys, and her mother didn't allow her to come into my house. Often she was with her little brother. She'd be roller skating or jumping rope, and she had a million questions. She was so curious. I was doing, all my mundane chores, like weeding the sidewalk, taking care of my flowers out in the front of the house, or chipping paint off the wrought iron fence in front. And she just won her way into my heart, like as an 8-year-old. And then because we lived next door to each other, and her family was up on the 3rd floor, and over the years we developed a relationship. And even when you moved away to the projects,
I just wanted to be in her face all the time, so I purposely jumped my way all the way over in front of her house, help her pull weeds out, and
your curiosity was really it just so grabbed me. I love curious people.
And Maureen encouraged you to write, too.
Yes.
When was that?
It was about the age 21, after the birth of my son. It was during a time that I was on dialysis. My kidneys had failed. And I had so much going on. And she just said, you need to write your story. She goes, you need to write what you're feeling. It'll help you get through it. And then she goes, you could, and then I said, I don't know what to write. I'm not a writer. I don't know what to put on paper. And she said, put these stories, just write your story, and you'll find that you also will have good stories so that your son can read your story, someday. And look, now he's a man, and
Right.
We wrote a story. But that's how it started. And then I couldn't stop. Once I started, I just kept going and going, and she bought me a computer. And I would write. It was like an addiction after that. Like I just wanted to let it all out on paper. And that's what I did. And that brought us to today.
Wow.
I mean, for me, I write because I can find freedom on the page. I can find adventure on the page. And I wanted that for you. I wanted you to experience, you could experience life without lupus. You could experience life without pain, without disability, and you can decide what kind of life you want to live by understanding yourself. And writing helps you do that. And so I wanted you to keep writing. So I said, okay, you're writing your memoir, and I said one day recently, well, so are you going to, before we wrote this book, are you going to finish this memoir? And she goes, I don't know how to end it. I'm still alive.
I said, there's so much that keeps happening. It's like a movie, like a series, But there was just so much more that kept me writing,
Right.
And just having her in my life, it also, I don't know how to put it in words. It excited me to the point where I was like, I'm going to be like her. I'm going to be a writer, And then it's just the way it is.
During COVID.
Oh, yeah.
This sort of advanced it because I was teaching an online writing course, and I asked if she could join, and she did, and she got so much encouragement from the other students.
Yeah.
And they were so curious about her story. I just said, this story has to get out there.
Right.
Yeah. They really, they looked forward to hearing what I was going to, because she gave us assignments. So they were curious to hear what I wrote about. because I was very bold in the way I wrote.
She's very descriptive.
Yeah, very descriptive. And they were just like, wow. They were just blown away by it.
I love hearing, you mentioned you were 21 years old, a new mother and on dialysis. I mean, the pressures of all of that, and the writing was a way of both an outlet as well as a way of making sense of your life, as well as, I love your statement, living without lupus. Like, you can, when you're writing, it's a release, it's a way of, figuring yourself out, but also living the life you want to live.
Yeah.
So interesting that you said that.
Yeah.
Because I think that,
Yeah.
we need to imagine who we want to be and how we want to live in order to live that way. And, you found a beautiful life.
Yeah.
You found a beautiful husband. You've accomplished so much. You really imagined it and did it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it helps when you have someone in your corner,
You've had someone in your corner all
like
these
you.
years.
Yeah, and
What a unique relationship the two of you have. I mean, this has been years. How many years now?
Over 30. I mean,
yeah, because I was 8 and I'm 50. I just turned 50. That's a long time. I don't count. I just go with the flow, because my mind is young.
Right,
so.
right.
But yeah, to me, it's a lifetime. It feels like a lifetime.
Well, that's it. It's a lifetime. You two were together a lifetime.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I feel so blessed that I knew her mother, who died when you were 14.
When I was 14.
And at one point, when she started babysitting, I would go upstairs to write. I was actually writing the Red Hook stories when she was downstairs playing with the boys. And afterwards, I saw her mom on the street. I said, I really want to adopt your daughter. And I got the biggest smile from her, the biggest happiness. She was very quiet and didn't really say much, but she... Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. You're good.
You need some tissue?
No, I'm fine. I'm good. I'm good.
Love
No, you
that.
can keep. I love when she talks about my mom because she knew my mom.
Well, we keep her alive. That's why.
Yeah, a lot of people I ask them about my mom, and they just, oh, well, she was a beautiful person, but you want to know more.
Yes.
So she kind of adds perspective to that.
I love that. I love your relationship between the two of you. It's just so beautiful, and the bonds that you've made over all these years. But how did you get it to a book? Who decided we're writing a book together?
Well, I did.
Yes.
Because, especially from seeing the other students be so interested in her story, I decided it really needed to get out there. I mean, I could tell it, but it's her, it's her story. But on the other hand, it's my story.
Right, because they're intertwined.
So
you're right.
When you have to be careful as a writer that you don't write someone else's story.
I love that statement.
Yes.
You got to write your own story.
Wow, thank you.
So that's why I said we've got to do it together. And she was already writing her memoir, so it took, a lot of phone calls and a lot of drafts, and we have big manuscripts back and forth, and
Overnight stays.
Yeah.
And things like that, and
she also won. I'm sorry.
the Brooklyn Fellow.
Yeah, Brooklyn. I encouraged her to
Yes.
submit her memoir to the Brooklyn Film Festival.
Oh, wow.
Nonfiction.
Right.
Memoir of growing up in Brooklyn, and she was one of the finalists. And so that gave her a lot of kudos, and I saw how it made her,
She
feel
says,
so good.
Yeah, she says, we don't have a lot of time. You have to pick a story. You have to write something, write it, send it to me. I'll look over it. We work. She's my boss, know? So it's like, let's get. And I picked the story. The woman who taught me how to make rice. I think that's something similar to that. And I entered, and when I was just blown, I was like, I was picked as a finalist, you know?
So because it was COVID, it was the final celebration was on Zoom, and I went over to her house and sat next to her, and she was,
Oh, wow.
She sounded just like the 8-year-old that I met.
Oh my gosh.
Exuberant and
Yeah.
just very articulate, and I was very proud of her.
Of course.
So, and the mentor that I had that my mom got for me was, she, after many, many years, she said, "You are my literary daughter." She has another daughter. She goes, "She's not my literary daughter."
Oh, wow. Okay.
So now, ever since her becoming a finalist, I said, "Yeah, you're my literary daughter."
I love that. You're her literary daughter. And what do you call Maureen?
I call her Mommy Mo.
Mommy Mo.
Mommy Mo.
I love that.
You know, when I was in the hospital one time, I just had my son, and I said, can I just call you Mommy Mo? Like, can I? Because I'm tired. I need a mom fix. I felt like I needed that, you know.
Yes.
And she was like, all in. It's like, yes, that's fine. And
then I got a daughter because I have 3 boys.
Yeah.
So
I love that. And I love what you just said. She was all in.
she was all in.
You know,
Yeah.
how many times people in life miss those moments because they're not all in. And you two are just such a testament to saying yes.
yeah, well, you know, I kind of went along with my mother. She always made us earn our money. So if Mercedes needed something, I always said, "You can always come and do something for me, and I can pay you."
There we go.
So, you know,
That's how I was like, do you need a sitter? And she would also find me her friends that had kids, children, small, you know, and they trusted me because I took care of her boys and I was reliable. So she helped me get through my teenage years, you know. So
Now, is it difficult that your Mommy Mo is also your writing mentor? Like, is it hard to hear? Does she say, "Oh, this is very nice, Mercedes, but really this sentence over here is kind of garbage"? Or like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, being an editor, shall we say, and being a close friend, that's sometimes hard. Has that ever been a problem?
no, she does everything with love. Everything with love. She says, well, but she'll tell me, you don't have a lot of time. This has to get done. And I'm like, okay, you know, I got you. I got
because
this.
I know
you
it's.
know?
I mean, even for parents to try to bridge that, you know, gap between doing everything with love but getting things done.
well, if you hadn't, it wouldn't be here.
It wouldn't
So
be
you
here.
None of us would be
Yeah.
here. So you got it done.
Yes.
We're here.
Yes.
It's here.
Yes.
So it's a good thing that she ran some shotgun on you.
Yes, yes. But it's never, I've always gone to her for everything, basically, like when I questions things, you know. So with this, it was pretty, you know, I know I drove her probably crazy a couple of times. She probably hasn't told me. But there were times where I can't, like, I don't know what else to put. Like, I don't think this sound right. And she said, stop going back and
Go forward.
editing. Just keep going forward. Just go, you know? And then that's what I did.
But you would come up with some amazing stories, like the woman who taught me how to make rice. That is an amazing. There's always stories within stories.
Yes.
And so, you know,
Yeah.
and you know, there's just so much to talk about, and it leads to another story.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, so
Yeah.
You're so right. What you said about moving forward and not looking back and constantly editing. That's a problem with writers. Is they put up their own roadblocks because they'll sit there forever. You know, should I find a synonym for this word? No, just keep going.
yeah, I was lucky because I went to Evergreen State College, and I went there because of the philosophy. And there was a professor, Peter Elbow, who his obituary was in the New York Times last week. He wrote a book called Writing Without Teachers. And so in college, I had individual contracts with professors. I had to write 50 pages a week, typewritten pages, and then read the best 20 aloud, and we would discuss them. But I did it for a long time, and it kind of got this whole river of language going through me.
Wow.
And you don't go back. You don't correct the spelling, the grammar, anything. It's all about getting the
And not to
the
date
story down.
not to date any of us here, but this was before the computer would just correct it for you.
Oh, right, right.
So your
Oh,
50
yeah.
pages was raw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's great is in this obituary, you know, his book was really unconventional at the time. He was at Harvard. He had writer's block. He didn't know what to do, so he took time off and just started writing that way. And he ended up at Oxford, you know. But now this is the standard for freshmen, you know, literary comp. You just get it going so that the creativity doesn't
She's a really good
shut
teacher.
down.
That's fabulous, just fabulous. Well, is there going to be a sequel? I mean, did you enjoy doing this together?
Yeah.
Is there some project? Yes.
Yeah, some project.
Yes.
Yeah, I would like you to finish your memoir completely.
Yes.
You have to kind of find a, you know, and
Yes.
find an end date.
Yes,
we
I
just
do,
said it
I
in front of
do.
cameras. Now
Yeah.
you're stuck.
I know.
And then I would like to write it into a screenplay or a TV show.
That would be a good
Ooh.
idea.
So it's your story, and I'm the one who's
Well, then I
gets
need
the
to
credit
get
for
on it.
that.
Love that you said it. Well, yes. What's lovely in this is it goes back and forth. That it's your story and then it's your story, and you see the intertwining of the two. But yes, you've just thrown down the sword there, and you need to finish yours so it can be screenplayed because it's quite the story.
One person did say to me, that's the story for the screenplay right there. You know, that the intertwining
It is so
Yeah.
nice to have the intertwining. I love that because you know you get to see two different points of view on what's going on.
Yeah, and you know, I think, you know, there's so many differences between us.
Yeah.
Age, ethnicity, religion, you know, none of that matters.
No.
Right.
It's just, and that's what's so pleasant and such a pleasure. And I'm sure lots of people have neighbors that they have, you know, long-term deep relationships with that they don't really think that much maybe about it. And that's one thing that writing this book has really taught me is that it's easy and people do it. It's just that it doesn't get written down.
Yeah.
I get that, and I'm sure a lot of people would maybe after this, hearing this, would like to write it down. I think it's fabulous. I always love personal stories for legacy. You know, so that your own families can look back on, you know, the two of you years and years from now and say, oh, you know, if one of yours says, how did Mommy Mo get into our family here? She doesn't look like us. How did this ever happen? You can hand them the book, or vice versa, you know?
And the fact that you sat down with your husband and son and read it together. once
We read
came
it
out.
together.
Oh, I love
We just
that.
sat together and read the whole book at one sitting.
Oh my gosh, I love
and we
that.
just read
They
it.
learned
and-
stories they didn't know.
Yeah. I actually, because I have a memoir that I'm finishing.
Right.
So I sat down
So
one
I've heard.
day. Yes. And I sat down with my son and I told him some things that are in the book that I won't reveal today. But I had to tell him some things so that when it does come out, he's not shocked.
Ooh, I like that.
So there was a lot that I had to talk to him about. You know, now that he's older, it's the perfect time to release the memoir. So
No, and I'm glad you said what you did about knowing in advance to prepare people. You know, this is one of those things I get asked a lot about writing memoir. And, well, what about, you know, some of these things are going to be revealed. And I hear how delicately, you know, and thoughtfully you're handling that.
And it takes courage. It takes
It
courage to
does.
write the truth.
Oh, my goodness, does it ever?
yeah, it does. It does.
You know, because it doesn't, when you put it on paper, it sounds different than when you carry it in your soul, in your heart, you know.
Right. And the day it gets released and you realize that everybody can read it.
That hit me when I was reading it, and I said, "Wow, it's here. This is it.
It's
Like,
here and it's available
Yeah.
worldwide, and everyone can read it. I mean, it's a little frightening.
Yeah, there are
Takes
some
courage.
things in
It
there
takes
that
a lot of
yeah.
courage. You know, being a writer is a very, very, you know, kind of, it's like taking your clothes off in public. You know,
I
it really
know.
is.
I had to put myself in that mindset where it was like, this is my story. I'm not writing this to hurt anyone or to, this is what happened to me. This is my story. And carefully, I put it together, you know, as best as I could.
Nice.
Yeah, I had the experience many years ago where somebody wanted me to help them write their memoir. And they showed me their whole life in pictures, and as she was going through, she'd say, but that can't go in it. I can't let that out. And that can't go in. And that can't go in. And then I just said, you're not ready to write this.
You're not ready to write this.
No. It's not going to be a book if you don't put those things in. So
No, you have to. Although on the flip side, I've seen memoirs. I think you could have left that part out.
Oh, yeah.
yes.
There is such a thing as too much information.
Yes,
No, I believe
absolutely.
that. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, but it's hard. I mean, here you are. You're working on your next book. This being your first, then, and you're working on your next. And I'm sure it is a balance. It's a balance between wanting to bear all, share with people, warn them first, changing names. You know, there's a lot of. It is your story, and you have every right to it. But once it is in between the covers of a book, it does have its own little life there too.
Yeah.
You know,
It's a baby. You know?
it is a baby, and you know, like a baby, it does
Have its own life.
It does have its own life and a little bit of a mind of its own there.
Yes. Yes.
So, what would you recommend to other people who want to do this, memoir, or I love this, joint memoir?
I encourage collaborative memoirs. I mean, it's a good way for two people to get together and tell a story together, you know. I was talking to my husband, and I said, you know, maybe there should be a publishing company that just does collaborative memoirs.
Yeah, well, collaborative memoir is its own thing. And you might have to run it because now you know how to.
But yeah, this is.
You know the minefields.
Yeah, if that's if they have a relationship like ours where they can get along and
Exactly.
It has to be the right moment.
Yes.
You know, like we didn't do it 20 years ago.
Right. No, that's true. Maybe that would have been too soon. You know, but now it was a wonderful project, and you'll just keep hounding her for the big memoir. I love that. Well, when that one's done, please join us here so we can talk all about it. For our viewers, if you'd like to catch some of Maureen McNeil's fiction, Anna Magdalena and Tinker Street, but if you want to really know what was going on, catch Mercy, so you can learn more about Maureen and Mercedes and their beautiful 30-year relationship. Thanks for joining us.
We're just books up on a shelf. Try to understand this if you can.